Good evening. I'm James Exum, also known as Sakshi, in the world of yoga philosophy. It's Friday evening at approximately 8:20 p.m. I'm in my home in South Austin, and this will be my latest discourse on my YouTube channel having to do with yoga philosophy. This one is entitled Dambha, Dambha, a discourse on hypocrisy and pretense. And we'll be exploring the concept and consequences of Dambha in society. A lot of that going on nowadays, especially in the old U.S. of A, United States of America. So let's just jump right in there. We'll start with my introduction. I wrote this earlier today. I produced a video earlier today also, and it's already published in case you want to view it. And so, as I said, let's go ahead and start. Let me get a little more distance here. There we go. Feel a little more comfortable not being in your face so much. Okay. The concept of Dambha, originating from Sanskrit, refers to hypocrisy, pretense, or the act of putting on a false appearance of virtue or goodness. In many philosophical and spiritual traditions, especially within Indian thought, Dambha is viewed not only as a personal failing, but also as a societal ill that undermines authentic relationships, spiritual growth, and ethical conduct. Now, I do not consider yoga religion. It has spiritual aspects to it. I consider it a science, the science of life, the science of living. This discourse seeks to analyze the nature of Dambha, its manifestations, implications, and the ways by which individuals and communities can overcome this pervasive tendencies. As I said, it's going on in this country, hot and heavy right now. You know this, and I know this. And hopefully, we'll be able to get away from it soon. Political and ideological hypocrisy. In the context of modern politics and global worldviews, Dambha manifests as the discrepancy between public posturing and private actions among leaders and institutions. Politicians may advocate for transparency, justice, or moral reform in their rhetoric, while simultaneously engaging in practices that contradict these values, such as corruption, favoritism, or manipulation of information or financial markets. Similarly, organizations and individuals may publicly champion causes like environmentalism or social justice, yet fail to implement meaningful changes within their own practices. This form of Dambha not only erodes public trust, but also perpetuates cynicism and disengagement within society amongst friends, family, and political opponents, making it increasingly challenging to foster genuine progress and collective well-being. Well, I would say right now the society of America has a problem with its collective well-being. The contemporary prevalence of Dambha in politics and ideological spheres underscores the urgent need for integrity and accountability, or at least getting back to those established norms. By acknowledging these inconsistencies and striving for authenticity in public discourse and policies, societies can begin to bridge the gap between ideals and actions, and that needs to hurry along. Ultimately, cultivating a more honest and effective approach to governance and social change, well, we definitely need proper governance and social change to come about soon. commentary by contemporary thinkers such as myself, also known as Sakshi. That's the name I gave my soul years and years ago. It's also your Atman in Sanskrit, which means your soul. It also means the witness. It's that tiny voice that speaks to you and tries to righten the ship when there's a heavy crosswind. It's also that tiny voice that records. It's the witness. And I add a modern perspective to the concept of Dambha. I emphasize that hypocrisy is not simply an ancient concern, but a persistent obstacle in history's year-to-year societies, where outward appearances are often valued over genuine character. Let me read that second part again. I emphasize that hypocrisy is not simply an ancient concern, but a persistent obstacle in today's society where outward appearances are often valued over genuine character. I suggest that overcoming Dambha requires honest self-reflection and a commitment to authenticity in both personal and public spheres. I argue that only through embracing vulnerability and acknowledging our imperfections can we foster genuine connections and yogic growth. Adi Shankara, the renowned Advaita philosopher who addressed the dangers of Dambha in his commentaries on sacred texts, Shankara warned that pretense and hypocrisy sever the seeker from true knowledge and self-realization. He advocated for sincerity among spiritual practice, insisting that liberation, which we all know if you've studied yoga long enough, or the philosophy of yoga, moksha, liberation is also moksha, is attainable only when one's actions and intentions are in alignment. Shankara's teachings highlighted the importance of inner purity and the rejection of superficial displays of virtue, reminding us that authentic spiritual progress is rooted in honesty and humility. Now we're going to try to get a deeper understanding of this Dambha, excuse me, Dambha, I said Dambha, it's Dambha. Forgive me, I'm an older man. Well, that's not so bad as some public speakers nowadays, especially if they're addressing the United Nations. Dambha is often translated as hypocrisy, but its connotations are broader. It encompasses behaviors where individuals project an image of moral or spiritual superiority, while internally harboring motives or actions that contradict their true image. Dambha is not mere self-deception. It is a deliberate act to deceive others, motivated by a desire for respect, admiration, or social advantage, not to mention narcissistic attention for the narcissist. Hysterical texts such as the Bhagavad Gita and various Upanishads frequently caution against Dambha. In the Bhagavad Gita, for example, hypocrisy is considered a barrier to spiritual realization, to progress on your yogic path, as it creates a chasm between one's outward conduct and inner state of being. Manifestations of Dambha, I have some bullet points here. The first one being religious hypocrisy. Well, that sounds rather familiar when you view the news or the internet talk shows or even the comedy hours. Religious hypocrisy, performing rituals, prayers, or acts of charity purely for public recognition rather than genuine faith or compassion. And I'm not a critic of faith or compassion. In fact, I am a proponent of it. But I am not a churchgoer. I'm a yogi, an old yogi, been at it over 50 years now. Social pretense, presenting oneself as more virtuous, knowledgeable, or accomplished than one truly is to gain social understanding. Well, I hope I don't come across that way. If you met me in person, and because I've been in Austin over 50 years, I have a lot of social acquaintances in this town, and I have never, to my knowledge, it may have been spoken when I wasn't listening or I wasn't around, but I've never had anyone accuse me of social pretense. Maybe a little bit of a professorial style of speaking and writing, and that would be true, that is my nature. Professional facade, well, that was a pretense to the next one. Professional facade, projecting competence or integrity in the workplace while privately engaging in unethical or dishonest practices. Well, I've got a couple of misdemeanors on my record, but absolutely nothing higher. These manifestations are not limited to any one culture or context. The desire to be seen favorable by others is a universal human trait, especially if you think you can keep running for the presidency or just stay in office. But when it leads to a persistent pattern of pretense, it becomes Dambha. Well, thank goodness for the framers and writing those amendments in there that they foresaw. The consequences of Dambha are both personal and societal. On a personal level, practicing hypocrisy erodes self-respect, leads to inner conflict, and hinders genuine self-improvement. The proof is in that pudding. Psychologically, it can result in anxiety, guilt, and a fragmented sense of self. Well, that's a good psychological diagnosis. On a societal level, widespread Dambha breeds distrust and cynicism. You can be a practitioner of Dambha, and in being so, you can become a projector of it. It's like spreading the disease, especially when vaccinations are being outlawed. When people witness hypocrisy in leaders, religious figures, or peers, confidence in institutions and relationships are undermined. Ultimately, Dambha erodes the ethical fabrics of communities and encourages a culture where appearances are valued over substance. Now, how do we overcome this so-called Dambha? Awareness is the first step toward overcoming Dambha. Self-reflection and honest introspection can help individuals recognize where their actions and intentions diverge. Spiritual and philosophical traditions recommend cultivating humility and sincerity. For example, meditation is self-inquiry. Regularly examine one's motives and behaviors to assure alignment with personal values. This is one of the major ways, if it's followed through, to figure out if you're a hypocrite or not. Accountability, seeking feedback from trusted friends or mentors who can provide honest perspectives. And that's a very good way. I live in a retirement community. You have to be over 55, and we seek feedback from each other, and hopefully we're honest when we give our opinions on those questions. Practice of authenticity, striving to act in accordance with one's true belief, even when it is uncomfortable or challenging. Very important. Communities and organizations can foster environments that value authenticity over outward displays by rewarding honesty, encouraging vulnerability, and modeling transparency at all levels. Well, we've already reached our conclusion, it seems. And here it comes. In conclusion, Dambha, or hypocrisy, is more than a moral failing. It is a complex social and psychological phenomena that affects individuals and societies alike. By understanding its roots and manifestations, and by committing to sincere self-examinations, individuals can resist the pull of pretense and cultivate a life of authenticity. In doing so, they can contribute to the creation of communities built on trust, integrity, and genuine connection. Now, that is the end of my writing, but I would like to add this one addendum. Get involved with your congressman, your senator, your local mayor, your church leaders, community leaders, newspapers, publications, online, leave commentary that supports the abolishment of Dambha and all the people that are practicing it right in our faces every day on public media. And that's as far politically as I'm going to go today. And you say, well, are yogis supposed to get involved in politics? Well, I'll say what the good Lord said. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God's. And it is God's plan for us not to be hypocrites. That's just my opinion. Now, who is this God I'm speaking of, seeing as I'm not religious? I'm talking about Brahman, the creator of the cosmos, in yogic texts and writings, in the Upanishads, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahabharata, and on and on and on, all the great Vedic writings. That is my God, that is my creator. He's the one that put my soul in me, that spark of himself, spark of divinity. And it's here to keep me on the straight and narrow, the proper dharma, and within proper actions, the righteous actions, which is karma. Karma is positive, negative, or neutral. I try to stay on the positive side of karma. I try to stay on the positive side of dharma, which is the path of life, the proper way, proper path of conduct. Now I've gotten from political insights into yogic philosophy, which is what I am, an old yogi. So it looks like I've used up about 17 and a half minutes. I want to keep these under 20 minutes, so that's what I'll do. So I'm going to thank you for coming and listening. And if you liked it, that's wonderful. If you didn't care for it at all, that's okay too. And I'll close with my usual standard, which is be good to yourself, be good to others, and even to strangers, because who knows what benefit can come out of that. And keep the faith, my friends. Think positive, and know that here in a short while, I mean less than a decade or so, we should be back to a society of normal activities, not a society of Dambha dominance. Thank you again. Hope to see you later, and good night.